Member DeCiani, Member Eckhoff, Member Garcia. Here. Member Hart, Member Krajewski, Member LaPlante, Member Ozag, Member Pochalski, Member Renahan, Member Rutledge, Member Schwarzy, Member Selman, Member Tornatori, and Member Zay.
Great, we have a quorum. Good morning, everyone. We have a pretty full agenda, so I'm going to keep my comments brief. So far, we have about 2,588 responses to our budget survey as of this morning. And the survey is going to end at the end of the month. So if you can keep pushing that out on your social media, we'd like to get, I know we have a lot of responses, but I'd like to get as many as we can get. And I'd just like to let the committee know that on August 23rd, Finance will be having a special call at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. It's probably going to be a long day, so plan most of that day being here at the county. So I'd appreciate that. And with that, we are going to move on to presentations. I'd like to welcome Joe Lightcap from Baker Tilly. He's going to be giving us a presentation on our 2021 audit presentation. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I did have a PowerPoint. I don't know if it's available.
Nobody gave me one.
Oh, nobody gave it.
Okay. Yeah, I can forward the shield. I mean, I don't want to hold up the meeting. I can try to just, I can just talk through the presentation. So I'll just talk through my presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
They'll pull it up shortly. Okay, they'll get it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me today. Thank you for the county for using Baker Tilly as your auditors. First off, I'd like to publicly thank the finance department for their help during the audit. We asked a lot of questions. We asked a lot of information, and the finance department and all of the departments of the county are very responsive, very helpful in our efforts. My agenda today, I will be going a little bit over our engagement team, the 2021 audit deliverables, a little bit about the audited financial statements, our reporting and insights letter, and throughout the whole process, should you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. I will be going over it at a high level. I know there's a lot of information in the annual financial report to go through. So a high level is really what's appropriate for today. But of course, if you have any questions now or at any point, feel free to ask me. All right, next slide, please. A little bit about your engagement team. My name is Joe Lightcap. I'm the engagement director for your audit. We have two managers. One is now an audit partner, Michael Malat and Anna Wizawadi. They are the main managers for your engagement. And then Jason Coyle performs the quality control review. The most important thing on here is our contact information. We're available to you at any point during the year for any questions or concerns you might have. The fiscal year 21 audit procedures are complete. Our reports were issued on June 30th, 2022. The next slide, please. The 2021 audit deliverables. The two deliverables that I'll be going over today are the annual financial report for November 30, 2021, in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and then the reporting and insights letter from the 2021 audit, which is our non-financial highlights. For the audited financial statements, on the next slide, there's some non-audited services that we perform in conjunction with our audit, which is preparation of the annual comprehensive financial report, adjusting and conversion journal entries, and then preparation of part 2 of the data collection form. While we perform these services on behalf of the county, the finance department is very involved in the oversight and the review of these documents and these services to ensure that we are still independent of the county and that management is taking responsibility for all of the information. The independent auditors report, so this is our opinion on the audited financial statements. It was again unmodified or a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance you can gain from your outside auditors, and states that the financial information within is material materially correct in all reasonable respects, can be reasonably relied upon by an outside user of the financial statements. Our opinion does not cover the DuPage Airport Authority that is audited by other auditors. The reporting and insights letter, as I mentioned, is a non-financial highlights from our audit. This fulfills a few different auditing standards that we're required to report on and present to the board. First off is auditors' responsibilities. The objective of the financial statement audit is to express the opinion on the financial statements. We also consider internal control over financial reporting for the purposes of expressing an opinion on the financial statements, not to provide a separate opinion on internal controls. But as I'll go over in a few minutes, if we have any concerns or any things to bring up to the board, we do present that in this letter. Management's responsibilities to prepare and fairly present financial statements, to establish and maintain effective internal controls over financial reporting and in compliance with laws and regulations. Compliance with types of requirements required by OMB compliance supplement, that is for the audit of the financial awards. And then provide us with written representations of the conclusions of the audit. Those written representations are available at the end of the audit results letter for your review. Some of the qualitative aspects of accounting practices, these are listed out in the report. The accounting policies. During the year, the county adopted Gatsby 84 for fiduciary activities. What this did is, in the past, you had agency funds that were presented with just a balance sheet, so just an end year balance. This year, the definition of these funds changed. So some of the agency funds which are now called custodial funds, were brought into the general fund or other special revenue funds of the board, depending on the characteristics of the fund. But a lot of the funds stayed as custodial funds and now present an income statement. So additions and deductions for the year. So that is a different presentation is what you'd seen in the past. There's also a combining schedule after the notes to the financial statements by custodial fund that tells you the additions and deductions for the year. There was also a restatement related to this adoption. It is all standard, but it's required to be disclosed. The accounting estimates are reasonable in relation to the financial statements as a whole. The financial statement disclosures were neutral, consistent, and clear. There were no difficulties in performing the audit. There were no material audit adjustments, which is great to see. Some past adjustments. So these are adjustments that were immaterial, that were noted but not recorded in the financial statements. The IMRF adjustment that I think we have most every year. There's really nothing we can do about that based on information received from IMRF related to the net pension liability. And there were some care center liabilities that were not recorded as they were material. There were no disagreements with management or consultations with other auditors. As I mentioned, the management representations are there. The letter has been provided. There were no other significant issues discussed, and all audit issues were discussed in the normal course of business. So for the most part, a very good and very clean letter for this audit standard. On the next slide, there's some new accounting pronouncements that'll be effective in future years. Next year is Gatsby 87 for leases, so there'll be some additional assets and liabilities related to leases, and then conduit debt and compensated absences further on down the road. As always, we'll work with the finance department to implement these accounting standards when effective. Internal control matters, as I mentioned earlier. There are two repeat comments, one around non-treasurer held bank accounts and one around care center patient billing. While these comments are repeat comments, each of them have been improved slightly from prior years. So some good progress being made while they're still there, especially on the care center side. I think that's one that's going down the right path and ready to be kind of continue to be looked at, and hopefully in future years it'll fall off. Our report, as did one from the prior year, comment on the care center external financial reporting. That was around adjustments in the past that we've had that we had no material adjustments in the current year. So that comment has been removed from the letter. So good progress, still things that are being worked on currently. Good progress.
Go ahead, do you have some
Yeah,
questions?
just to be clear, you said it'll fall off, the care center, it'll fall off.
it-
What will fall off?
Well, nothing is certain, but things are being worked on in the care center retroactive billings to help improve that process so that they're more timely.
Could you explain that more clearly?
Sure. Currently, there is a comment around internal controls over retroactive billings, so billings at the care center that aren't being performed in a timely manner due to the complications and the staffing at the care center. This has been an active thing that the care center has been working on and trying to improve the timeliness of these billings and show how the receivable is for Medicaid or private pay. And as I mentioned, I don't know, I can't say for certain that anything will be removed from the letter, but the management at the care center is actively working on trying to improve the timeliness of these retroactive billings so that the information is more timely presented, and potentially, if the internal controls do approve around that, the actual adjustment, timeliness of the adjustment does approve, then the comment could be removed in the future.
Thank you. Member Krajewski?
Yeah, well, since we're talking about this, those are my only questions I had were just on this management report and the significant deficiencies, which are the two that have been on there forever. But the first one, the county board finance non-treasurer and held accounts, we still have that one on there. And, your paragraph, which is right on the internal controls, is by operating outside the auspices of the county's primary system of internal controls, there is a risk that the county's financial statements would exclude transactional activity and existing bank account balances without the knowledge of management or the county board. Additional errors or fraud could occur in these accounts without being discovered that would have otherwise been identified within the primary control procedures. So, this is in there every year. We have this. And so I think the board needs to get from, not from you, but from our staff, a list of all these bank accounts that are out there that are being run, kind of outside of us that we're maybe not aware of. And when we have these elected officials in front of us asking for their budget, we need to ask them the question of why they need these bank accounts outside of our management control and outside of us. Well, one, for internal control purposes, and us to make sure we're aware of these. And I don't know how many there are out there. I talked to Jeff last week when I got the report, but I know there's a few of them, but we don't need to discuss it today or with Baker Tilly, but
Yeah.
it's your recommendation. We have this every year. We need to get a list of all those accounts that are out there with all these elected officials. And we need to have them tell us when they're giving us their budget, why there's a reason that they need it decentralized with them and not through our management system, our accounting system, and at the end of the year. And then the second, and I see you nodding up there. And then the second one was just the care center one. I know they got a new billing system. It just seems like they're just keep pushing this thing off and come up with an excuse every year of why it's taking so long. So maybe we need to also have the care center management team just kind of give them some reports.
Yeah.
No, I don't need to talk to Janelle. I just said the scene. I understand they got the new billing system, so that maybe reason we didn't get it done last year when last year we said we were going to get it done. But just hopefully work through getting it finalized for next year so we don't see it next year. But thank you. That's all I had.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. And you can always email questions into staff if you guys look through it and have other questions that come up. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we direct staff to get us a list of all those accounts?
What was that?
Can we direct?
Yes, we
staff
can.
to-
Yeah,
Nick, if you could
absolutely. Yeah.
provide that to us.
Go ahead, member Dessert.
I think he had more of a presentation. to
Oh, do you have
go.
more presentation?
Yeah, his
Oh, I'm-
presentation was not over. I think.
Oh, I'm
he-
sorry. I thought
just
you were done.
wanted to
Okay.
ask a question while he was at the care center.
It was just a slide for a spot where the board can go on our website
Oh,
for more
okay, thank you.
information
Yeah.
and questions.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
No,
for another
no.
half hour. I would love to hear from you.
No, that was pretty much it, or I would have stopped there.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I understand. Yes, and we'll direct staff to get us the list of those bank accounts. Also, Darlene Rossetti from the Office of Education is running a little bit behind. So if we can have the clerk come up for their presentation. Clerk's office, I think Adam Johnson's heading up. Member Zay?
Yeah, Madam Chair, before the presentation starts, I'm just a little confused because the information we received is, I mean, incomplete. I mean, it's not in our format that we have. I mean, can we ask staff? I mean, we do put budget questions out. We do put a format out that everybody follows. And I mean, I can't make heads or tails of what this is. I mean, before they get up there and start talking about it, I mean, we have Jeff or Nick talk about the procedure. I mean, I just can't make heads or tails of this. There's no comparison to years past. There's nothing else. So I mean, I don't know what we would be listening to or talking about.
Well, I think Mr. Johnson can address this best. We had asked for obviously budgets from all departments, and those were due July 5th. We did not receive a budget from the clerk's office. There was a request to combine the clerk's office with the election division, the liquor control division, having those all combined as to one budget. We had a disagreement with that procedure. We would like to have those budgets broken out in separate accounting units as they have been in the past. So the data that was received on Friday was, I was directed to send that out, and that's what we have so far as the clerk's office budget. Honestly, I haven't even looked at it yet myself.
There's nothing to compare it to. I mean, there's no previous years. There's nothing. I mean, it's just, I mean, some of these sheets have 2 numbers on them and that's it. I mean, I don't know what.
Well, I thought we'd have Adam Johnson come up and explain, and then I think we're going to have to decide as a board here if we want to have the clerk submit their budget as one budget like they've requested, or as we normally have had the budget done with the election division being separated out. I think that's going to be a decision that we're going to have to make and give them direction on how they proceed with their budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Member Krajewski?
Yeah, well, the sheriff's got like 7 budgets and the state's attorney had like 4. I don't want all these elected officials to be coming just giving us one budget. I mean, we need to have them broken out. I would suggest not wasting our time. Just tell them to come back in 2 weeks with the appropriate budget format that we get from everybody else. And if they don't want to do it, then we'll just make the budget up. And we'll just do it or have our staff put the budget together. I mean, this is, I don't know what you do with this. I mean, he can get up there and explain all he wants, but I'm not going to be able to follow anything. And putting, like I said, we got all these elected officials with multiple budgets. They come and give it to us and we compare it. Next thing you know, we'll have every elected official in front of us with one budget and for multiple things.
Right. Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Schwarzy?
I would like to hear the budget. I'm sure the deputy clerk could probably explain to it so we can understand it. So I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I think let's give Adam Johnson a chance to speak. Okay, Member Pachowski, go ahead.
You know, for years, we complained that we weren't getting it formatted the right way. And with all due respect to the clerk's office, this is not even close to what we would accept as a board. Before he does his presentation, I think we should decide whether we want to hear it, because we're going to hear it again later on. I want it in the same format that every other county elected wide does. I didn't understand this at all. But in my opinion, for Adam to make a statement now, we're going to see him later. I think we as a board ought to decide whether 10 of us believe that we should then defer him and have him comply with the budget that everybody else has done for years for both the clerk's office as well as the Board of Election. And if we get direction from a majority of us, then Adam can come back and present a budget as we have requested in past years.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Member Chassie, but I just like Adam to explain maybe why they want to do it this way. Maybe it might clear up some issues and then we can make our decision from there. But just I just be curious to hear why they want to do it this way.
I respect that opinion, but it seems to me we're going to be doing it again. So respectfully, I would have a motion to table or continue for a 2-week period to get the format that hopefully 10 of these board members would say is not compliant with what we've done in the past.
Second instance.
So you want a motion to table for 2 weeks, Member Pachowski?
Yes, in order to get the documents for a proper budget presentation, yes. I don't know if I have a second yet.
I second it, Madam Chair, but I have a question. If I could be.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I think there's two issues here. First is whether or not we're going to have a combined budget.
Yes.
And I think that even if the motion to table passes, we need to give direction to the clerk's office as to how we want to do that. And then secondly, dealing with the format itself.
Correct.
So
Yep.
I think we need to clear those two things up.
Yes,
Not combine those two things either.
that's correct. Yes, thank you. Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So there's been a motion to table and a second.
Yes.
And now is the discussion period. And for discussion, I'd like to hear why they'd like their budget to be combined. I'd like that information. Adam?
Yeah.
Amongst the board, you can't circumvent, it's amongst the board, not.
We
I
can't,
don't know if I want to
Ta-
vote to table or not until I hear from Adam. How would I know?
yeah, it would be a question that needs to be answered by staff. So Adam, could you answer this for us, please?
So I have a presentation prepared to give the board today, which explains our budget request, including the rationale for why we are looking to consolidate into a single budget. So I can present that, which explains the budget request, but I'm not sure how I can answer the question without presenting the budget presentation, which I believe the board is deciding right now whether they would like to have that presentation today or not.
Member Zay.
Well, I mean, just as if we're discussing this, why wasn't this done in the format that every department does, that every countywide does, that the state's attorney did, the sheriff did, and the regional office superintendents did? Why wasn't it done in that format? And I think those, when we talk about budgets, it goes out from the chair of this committee that this is what we're doing, this request, and this is the time that's requested to be in. I mean, it's specific and everybody does it, it looks like, except the clerk's office.
So that question I'm happy to answer. I'm not sure how familiar all of the board members are with the software that the departments use to input our budgets, but it's essentially a spreadsheet that has line items for each of the different spending accounts. And the line items are there and you enter the value that you want for that account. If you are looking to add a new expense that you have not previously had, as a user, you do not have the ability to add an expense. So if I want to add a part-time budget to the clerk's accounting unit, and there has not been a part-time line item before. As a user, I do not have the ability to put in part-time and then enter the dollar amount that I'm looking to input. We have to request to the finance department to add those fields to be inputted into the budget. So prior to the budget submission deadline, we send an email to the budget, the finance staff saying, these are the line items we would like added to the county clerk accounting unit so we can fill those numbers in with our budget request. And they refused to add those line items, so we were unable to enter the data into the software system. So the spreadsheets you have before us are the inputs that can be entered into the county's budgets software, but we have to be allowed access to the line items that we would like to request. That's why we don't have it in their format.
Member Schwarzy, Member LaPlante, and then Member Salmon.
I was going to ask finance staff, is that common practice to not allow any changes to line items on any department's budget?
We would have been happy to add those line items, but our concern was combining the accounting units and having one budget. That was our only concern, is we couldn't combine that. So we asked for a full detail or full budget for all those different accounting units. So it was my understanding that we wanted to combine all that, and that's why we hesitated into combining those accounts.
Thank you. Member LaPlante.
Thank you. I just have a question. Are we going to be able to hear from the clerk for this budget?
Yeah,
this?
The clerk is out with COVID and she's
Oh, I
extremely
didn't know
sick.
that.
She's very sick, actually.
Oh,
So,
I'm so,
yes.
that's why I asked. I'm happy to, thank you for that
Yes.
information. I hope
Yes.
she feels better. Then maybe we should delay it because I think it's really important because the clerk knows exactly how she wants to have the budget. And this is, so we should defer to her is what I'm thinking, to add to the list of reasons to maybe delay this. And I would like to wish our clerk a very speedy recovery.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Selman?
Thank you. I think Jeff answered my question. So the problem wasn't that you were unwilling to add fields. It's that you were being asked to make a massive change of combining accounts. And that's because, I mean, we've all sat through budget presentations with a whole bunch of stuff added. We just did in my committee this morning. And so I just want clarification that you were being asked to change accounts, not that you weren't giving access to a database the way you would to every other department in this county.
Yes, we have an email chain with basically states that it's finance's understanding that you want to combine the county clerk and clerk election budgets. So at that point, that's where we ran into a disagreement. We do need, for transparency purposes throughout the county, these separate accounting units. For example, someone mentioned that the sheriff's budgets, they have 6 different accounting units just for the sheriff.
Mhm.
So historically, for example, we can look at what was spent for, I'll use the election division and just pull those transactions up. Instead, if we combine those, then we kind of lose some reporting transparency over the years. So that's what we wanted, what we requested. And again, there was a disagreement on how to go about doing that.
Okay, so I would maybe request if we could be just provided that information, that email chain, I think that would be really helpful. And then I would agree with Member LaPlante, especially with the clerk being out sick. Let's give her the time to get her ducks in a row. And I wouldn't want someone else presenting my budget if I was out sick. So if we've got the time, let's go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Member Selman. Member Chavez?
Thank you. Is it my understanding that the budget was actually submitted late? It sounded like there was a deadline in July and that you just received it on Friday.
July 1st was the deadline to receive all budgets, and we did receive all other departments on time.
But not the clerk's office.
We only received data on Friday.
Okay, and you've not had time to review it because of the late submittal?
Yeah, it was
So I
submitted
think we
around
do need to
4:30 on
delay
Friday.
because I would like to I think it's appropriate to have finance's review of the budget so that they can answer questions as well.
Yeah,
So
and just keep in mind that the clerk did submit their budget on time in July. However, they submitted it with a format that finance was not comfortable with. That really, if they want to change the format of the budget, that would most likely be our decision if we want to let the clerk have one budget with both departments or keep them separate. So they did they did make an attempt, but their information that they sent in was not accepted. So
did you review that upon submittal or?
Well, we require the budgets to be submitted through Oracle, which is our budget software.
Okay, all right, thank you.
thank you. Member Tornatori, then Member Krajewski.
I wonder how difficult it would be for Deputy Clerk Johnson to answer what I think is a relatively simple question. Why the clerk's office wanted to combine the election commission and the clerk's budget. I don't need in the liquor. I don't need the presentation to answer that. There must be a rationale behind it that obviously was not agreed to by our finance people. And I'd just like to know why, because perhaps between now and if the motion to table is sustained, we can get a memo from the clerk's office that tells us why they wanted to do it that way, which might make it easier for us to understand their rationale.
Yes.
So can
Adam, can you come up,
give
please?
us in, 300 words or less why you wanted to do what you did? or
I've got
you submitted?
2 paragraphs. I don't know the word count, but I can just read those directly
Fine,
for you.
that's great. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right.
I'll-
All right, so our budget submission this year contains no expenditure requests for the county clerk elections accounting unit, and instead consolidates election expenditures into the county clerk accounting unit. The primary effect of this change is to provide the county clerk with a single consolidated personnel budget rather than 2 separate budgets divided by function. Removing this artificial distinction will create greater operational flexibility for the clerk's office, as well as better reflect the realities of the increasingly merged job functions of our employees. Employees from the traditional clerk's office have been cross-trained to assist with election duties. Administrative, financial, and technical duties that were either duplicated in both offices or handled dramatically differently between the two offices have been and continue to be sorted into more unified rules and procedures. Some positions, like my own, are paid entirely out of one budget or the other, even though the position's duties clearly involve work that crosses over between the different functions of the office. The strict separation of personnel funds into two distinct budgets no longer reflects the operational realities of the county's clerk's office and will reflect those realities even less as future cross-training and consolidation of functions continues to occur. With regards to non-personnel expenditures, the effect of consolidating the two budgets will be minimal. In fiscal year 22, the combined commodities and contractual services budget for the county clerk accounting unit was $18,650, while for county clerk elections, that total was $4,635,012. Operationally, it makes little sense to maintain an entirely separate budget for less than half of 1% of the office's total non-personnel expenditures.
Okay, great, thank you. Member Kajewski?
For transparency purposes and comparables for board of directors and people looking at financials, all corporations have divisions, they allocate. Accounting's not that hard. Maybe suggest the clerk talk to the sheriff and talk to the state's attorney because they have multiple budgets over there and how they do it. But for transparency purposes for board of directors or county board and even the public, you know, the more divisions you have, the more you allocate things, the more you know how departments are run or how areas are run. So, I mean, I'm for telling them to just do it like they did, two budgets. If they need help, Jeff will probably help them if they don't know how to do accounting. There's people do allocations. In fact, we do a report where we allocate the finances time, facility maintenance, IT. We allocate that among all the departments to give us a good idea of how much it costs in each department. So we do that overhead spread. I mean, doing this between two accounts, that's pretty simple.
Thank you, Member Kajewski. Member Garcia, then Member Ozak.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair Chaplain. It seems to be that there's two issues here. We're looking for comparables for years past, and that seems to be missing if they were to combine them, and we wouldn't have those comparables from years past. But to me, it makes utter sense. I mean, right before I think I came on the board, I think it was 2018, I believe, the two departments were actually merged. And so it was the election commission and the clerk's office were merged. And so to me, it makes absolute sense for them to have the budget now together, since I have been there and their staff does do the same jobs. I see them going back and forth from department to department. So to me, it makes absolute sense. So I don't know if there's a way to actually give us comparables from past years for both departments and then give us a joint one from now going forward. So I don't know if that's a possibility with the software we have. So I don't know if that's a question I get answered.
I think Jeff's coming up. Thank you, Jeff.
The answer would be yes. However, I think that is a function of what the board has to approve. Whether, you know, you want to combine both of those accounting units and then go back and have the departments trace what their actual expenses were for, say, the election division or the crime lab or whatnot. But when the board actually approves an appropriation, at that time, it could be combined. But that's the kind of feedback we need from the board and how that should be handled.
Thank you, Jeff. Member Ozak.
And my question is for Jeff. I'm not an accountant. However, if they were to do the budget more traditionally, where we have much more delineation of election versus clerks, functions, et cetera, that does not mean that the job functions cannot continue to be cross-trained, et cetera. It's really what we need to see on paper versus what they may be doing operationally as this consolidation continues. They're only in year 3 or 4 of the consolidation of election into clerk. So we are looking for, I think, a traditional, this is what you're asking for, this is what you had last year, any projections that may be added, but it doesn't really matter in terms of how they're actually functioning. Is that correct? I mean, in terms of statute or?
No. I mean, certainly it's up to the board on how you do a final appropriation. What we do across the county though, and this was brought up, is if you have an employee that now works 50% of the time in the election division, 50% of the time in the clerk's office. You can budget that in both accounting units.
Okay,
And we do that all over the county and allocate that time and a lot of those expenses by those,
IT being a good
by those
example.
formulas.
IT being a great example. of
A
that.
great example,
Okay.
correct. And that's really the ultimate goal, really, is just to keep the transparency for future reporting.
So I think what we are looking for here is that there could be the consolidation, but we need more delineation of the jobs or what's actually being the functions of each position. Is that what we're
Well, that's up
to them? But
Yeah.
that's what we need to ask the clerk's office for.
You know,
We'd
in
like
my
to see-
opinion, for transparency, if you can start coming up with a percentage of time for the employees that work in each of these accounting units, then those problems would be solved and we'd still keep our reporting transparency throughout the years by keeping those two accounting units.
Okay,
But
and that to date has not been done,
I'm not sure
But-
how those allocations are within that department.
but that would be a start to solving this issue in terms of making this look more like the reports.
That
we
sounds like that's already happening, is they're starting to look at their percentage of time that's being spent on different
Okay.
functions.
get. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozak. Member Desart.
Thank you. Jeff, that brings up a great question. When you say the sheriff's office has 6 accounting units and the state's attorney's office has 3 accounting units, do they have crossover employees as the clerk's office does? And what percentage of, because a lot of the election commission and the clerk's office have a lot of crossover employees.
Right.
But is that the same for those other 2 offices?
I believe administratively, there probably is a crossover between those departments where they charge time for maybe corrections to the LEB unit. But, you know, a sheriff's deputy who primarily works in the LEB would probably be charged 100% of that and not any time to corrections. I could be wrong, but I know, I believe in the state's attorney's office, that's common practice to allocate time through those different accounting units.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Zay, then Member Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, Stormwater has 10 budgets. I mean, when you get grants, we figure out on a grant fund or a project, we figure out what time our staff does, what time you're spending on that project. They're getting the grant money, i.e. 40%, 30%, and that person's salary is then split into that. Same thing we're doing with ARPA, we did with CARES Act. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. This has been done for years here at the county. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, again, we're talking about transparency. If Stormwater can have 10 budgets for wetland banks and everything else, so we keep them apart so we know what's going on. I don't think it's impossible for the clerk to do 3 different budgets. Liquor, obviously liquor commission's got to be a smaller budget. The elections, which should be transparent and separate on its own so people can see that, is easy. And then the clerk's office. So again, I don't understand why they can't do that together. Give us comparisons before, get us a PowerPoint presentation and come back in 2 weeks with the figures that we need.
Thank you, Member Zay. I have Member Schwarzy and then Member Krajewski. And then Member Chavez. Go ahead. Member Chavez, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. So I agree. I think when we're looking at accounting, you know, I do have a lot of experience in accounting and business. So you do need to have those year over year comparisons. You do need to have a certain system where things get entered into. So my question is that if the clerk's office wanted to change the way that they were reporting into the system this year, why wasn't this brought to us as a board, say in May or June before the deadline, to say, hey, we want to enter this differently so that we as a board could have set up the system to allow?
I think they work through us, the finance department, and this is where it wound up. This is the discussion that you're talking about is happening now.
Okay, but then it just puts us behind because all the other units have applied through the system. We have a very uniform, I guess is the best word, way of comparing those. And then this one seems to be an outlier. So that's my concern, is that I feel like it should have been brought to us sooner. And so I don't know what the process is for that, but I think we as staff need to look at that so that we as a board don't get in a spot where we're trapped with information that looks different than every other unit.
Thank you, Member Chavez. Member Schwarzy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I'm a big believer that there's always more than one right way to do something. And, you know, as long as you get to the same goal, you know, the clerk's office, the responsibilities changed over the years. recent years. And if this is what they think works best for them, as long as things are transparent, as long as they can put all the information in there and we can see it, I'm all for letting them have this option.
Right. When we talk about merging the two budgets, there still would be line items that said election division, whatever, printing costs or election division, ballot costs or whatever, right? It would still be outlined in the budget, wouldn't it, or no? Because I've seen some counties that combine the election division and the clerk's office as one budget. And I've seen counties that keep them separate. So so some clerks have them combined, some clerks have them separate. I guess maybe it's part of the board policy. But I would think that if they would still have to have line items for their election costs as much as they would have for their clerk's costs. Wouldn't they have to have those on there?
Well, it's a good example. If you combine everything, and this goes throughout all the departments, printing is an example. You would, within that budget, you'd have to add, go back to the sheriff, 6 different line items for printing to break out each old accounting units printing transactions. And that becomes kind of difficult because during the year, they have to go back and charge the right printing account within that one single budget. So, it can get a little bit hairy if we keep adding numerous accounts within one budget that is really for the same function.
Okay. Yeah, we'll call the we'll call the question. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. So on the motion to table, we have a roll call on that.
It was motion by member Polchowski, so we start with, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, member Polchowski. Member Renahan. Member Rutledge. Member Schwarzy. Member Selman. Member Tornatori. Member Zay. Member Chaplin.
No.
Member Chavez.
Aye.
Member Covert. Member Desart.
No.
Member DeCiani. Member Eckhoff. Member Garcia.
No.
Member Hart. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. And Member Ozag.
Ten yes, 7 no, the motion carries. So we'll table this until our next meeting, August 23rd. Member Tornatori, did you have a question?
I do, a question and a comment, so that we don't do this again in 2
Yes, we're going to
weeks.
give direction
I
now, the
think
next
we
thing.
need to
Yes,
get Direction.
that's what
and
was
I-
my next question. It's going to be to the
Okay.
board.
But I think it's terribly important that the clerk and we, I would assume all of us, realizing the importance of elections, would want to know what it cost us to run an election. And I think the only way to do that is to figure out how much time is being allocated and how much time is being made printing. I don't think this is a huge ask. It's pretty simple to me, and I think it makes sense for the taxpayers as well as us. So I hope that the clerk takes what we're doing today, not just a delay, but to actually make some changes to what they've done.
Member Polchowski.
I think the budget presented by the clerk should be what? I believe the budget from the clerk should be what's been done in past years. And if the clerk wants to make recommended changes, that should be in future budgets. But what we've had in past years were 2 separate budget presentations. And I think we ought to be consistent with what we've done and accepted in the past and be formatted as the way we have requested budgets to be. And then in the budget presentation, the clerk could make a recommendation how she would like to change it. But I do agree with Commissioner LaPlante. She should be here to make that request, and hopefully she's healthy in 2 weeks and able to do that.
Thank you, Member Polchowski. I have Member DeCiani, then Member Krajewski, and then we're going to wrap this up. Member DeCiani.
I'm encouraged with the cross training because I think the idea of putting the 2 departments together, Board of Elections and the clerk's office, gives them the ability to do that. I want to encourage that, so I don't want to discourage that. But I still think we can do that and look at it separately and just look at proportions of time spent between each area. So I'm all for the cross training. I think it's a great thing. I do not want to stifle that whatsoever. Just want to see how it's broken down separately so we can, be good stewards, not only for this board, for the next board as well too. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Krajewski.
Yeah, I mean, we give them directions, give us the two budgets, and it sounded like their only issue was personnel. Some spend time in each budget, so they just put 60% in one and 40% in the other. If that's what the time spent is. Similar how we do IT and we spread it across the various departments. We spread finance across, we spread HR, we spread facilities management. It's an easy thing to do, and especially if they only got two budgets. They're just, cross-trained person, they're 50% here, 50 here, whatever it is, whatever methodology they use in, probably time spent. That's pretty simple. Give us two budgets like we normally have for transparency purposes. If they need help, Jeff will probably help them if they need to know how to allocate the time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Member Ozak?
I'd like to make a motion that we request the clerk to format the budget in the same format that was used in 2021 or 2020 for the 2022 budget. And with the explanation being given during the presentation of how this office is in flux, it's only year 4 of the consolidation, which was a major deal. So I'd like to see it though, and this is my motion, that we see it in the format that was given to us this time last year.
Good.
Can we move that, or do we
I
need
think
it?
we just do that by consensus. We don't have
Okay.
to have a motion.
So
So,
I'd like to move that we ask for last year's,
Okay,
a format similar to last year's.
yes. Does everyone agree with Member Ozag on her recommendation for direction to the clerk's office? We have consensus? Yes? Okay. All right. I don't know where Adam, if you're here, you have your direction. No, he's right here. He's sitting right there. He's still here. He's in the room. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the dialogue and discussion. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to our Regional Office of Education presentation. Welcome, Darlene.
Accommodating me. Thank you for accommodating me. I really appreciate it. I have this mantra that says, life intervenes with my best intentions. And certainly this morning it definitely did. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what we're doing right now with the county dollars. So I think that that's really important. So if I'm going to ask you for perhaps additional dollars, I think you need to know what we're doing with the dollars right now. So I have a brief, and I'll go through it briefly because our annual report will also be out very shortly. Unfortunately, it wasn't back from the printers today. And that'll give you, I think, even a bigger holistic view. But at least for right now, I wanted to just give you a little bit of a feel for what we do. So next slide, please. So we support schools. I'm going to just say that we support our schools in a variety of different ways. Okay, we support them, we help lead them, we do a variety different type of activities. We have tremendous partnerships, not just with them, but we bring them new partners as well too. I'd like to say we do play an integral part in the education system here in DuPage County, not just with the public schools, but I think even more so lately, we've been doing more and more with our private schools as well too, particularly in the way of safety. Certainly COVID, required us to do more things together, but even in the way of school safety, which I'll talk about really briefly too, has become more important. So as I mentioned, we are a very integral part of the public education system here. Next slide. Just some real brief highlights, that some things that I'm really proud of. We have been recognized over the last couple of years in the work that we're doing in the way of researching and developing and creating different type of opportunities for our school districts here in DuPage County. So we've been recognized by the state as one of 6 leadership hubs in the state of Illinois providing services. We have been stated by the state as well too, have been selected by the state to also be one of 6 leadership hubs that do trauma, mental health, SEL work. So we've been doing lots and lots of work in the last 2 years in that arena. I'm very proud to say, and I think this is really important, that we also have been handed over by the McCormick Foundation, the Illinois Civic Mission Coalition, And that is our work in civics that is not just in DuPage County, but it's statewide. How do we make sure that our children are, they are that educated citizenry that we really need them to be? So we do a lot of work in that arena. We are recognized as a state leader in that particular area. And also too, and this is really kind of fun. We also recognize as the micro endorsement leader for the state of Illinois. So we do a lot of work in micro endorsement, which is a very rigorous online platform for professional development for our educators. Saves them time, more efficient, working with our colleges and universities in providing credit, things like that. So it's really probably some of the most exciting things I think that we're doing right now. In addition, and thanks to you, with some of the dollars, CARE dollars, ARP dollars, we have been able to fund our apprenticeship program with our businesses. We started off with manufacturing, then IT. We're doing nursing, cargo logistics as well too, getting into engineering. So we've been moving. We're still in our pilot stage, but we're continuing to move forward. We have 39 manufacturers that we're working with. The manufacturers actually pay the students that we bring to them, so they pay for the students. And many of the students have been either hired by them or going back to school in that arena or stuff too. So it's been very successful, and we want to keep, scaling that up as well too. Teacher shortage, you probably heard about that. We're not in as dire strait as, many other counties in the state, but we have our areas, special education, English language learner. We have certain areas that we really need, to fill those gaps here too. So we're working a lot in that arena with our colleges and universities. How do we begin to recruit, especially in this time? And then finally too, one of our great partners over the last couple of years has been the DuPage County Health Department. And they've just done a remarkable job in everything and working with our schools. And we continue to work closely, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done with them, even though sometimes it was quite, Karen was, just leave it there. Karen was fabulous in many, many ways. Next slide, please. These are just some of the things that we do again, and some of the, the buckets under each one of them. Shared services. We look at the needs of our schools. Every single year we address what are the needs that they have, and how can we best add value or get out of their way. It's kind of our mantra. Either add value, make it efficient as effective for them in a shared service kind of a way, or let them do it themselves because they don't need us. But we find that they do need us, and these are just some of the areas that we work within. So I'm not going to belabor this. And again, that will be, a lot of this information will be in our annual report. Next slide. We have a number of partnerships. This list could be exhausting. I just wanted to share some of them with you. OEM's not on here. I don't even know if the health department, health department's on here. We partner with Bob Berlin in his office, particularly in safety with OEM. There's so many different entities. NAACP we partner with, LULAC we partner with. So lots of different, and what I mean by partnering, we help to bring those entities and those resources to the table for our schools as well too. So that's really important. Partnerships and those creating that kind of a community, helping to support our children. Really, they're supporting our children more than anything. Next slide. We measure everything we do. We measure, what's the number of, how many, licensures did we renew this year? How many people attended our professional development, which requires them by law to attend professional development to renew their certificate. And so this is just some of the metrics that we have. It's not exhaustive in any way, but probably what I am most proud of is the fact that we do also have a customer satisfaction survey. And so every time, we ask our folks, like it's on the bottom of all of our emails, and we ask them, please fill out this survey. And so we measure everything that we do. And I'm very proud to say that on a 5-point scale, our average is 4.7. On a whole range. So we take great pride in our customer service. We do some work. Next slide, please. We do some work, and this became much more apparent in the last couple of years too, with parents and community, helping to better educate parents. We had the League of Women Voters of DuPage County, many of the various leagues come together and wanted us to do some work with their parents on bullying. That was It's always a hot topic. But we, try what can parents do? How do they best work with the schools? Things like that. Really trying to educate the parent community as well too. And there's a common topic. We also work with our homeless families. And as you can see, we almost had 2,000 homeless families just last year that we worked with. And we also worked with Brian and Amy up in the Downers Grove area in support of the homeless shelter that was up there and bringing our schools together and seeing what resources that we could bring to the table too in order to help our homeless, particularly up in that area. Early childhood education is another area, a growing area across the state of Illinois, and it has been, of course, for some time. And we do have a Parents as Educator program too that we work with, and again, providing resources. One of the things, next slide, please. And one of the things too, and again, very grateful because again, through CARES or I don't forget which one they are, the federal dollars, you provided us last year with an extra behavior interventionist to help us support our students who are truant. And so as you can see, we did have almost a 50% increase in truant students come to us. Oftentimes there are issues of mental health. There's issues of some of them going back to work, their parents not working or whatever, and students having to work. So we're really looking holistically, not just at the students, but at the families as well. Unfortunately, from time to time, we have families that will move away, or we'll have students that will drop out then. Those are the ones that keep us up at night. But overall, we had about a 75% return to school. And then what we do too, so just so you know, it's not a one and be done. We monitor those students. So we have like an intergovernmental agreement. So we monitor those students. We want to know, did they stay in school? So it's not enough that they went back on day one. We want to know that they stood there on day 100 as well too. So that's a little bit with truancy. Trauma. As I said, we're a hub for this whole area. So all of Area 1, we're a huge hub. We provide lots of supports, develop a lot of professional development. What we do basically in this area is train staff in the schools so they can go and train their educators in the schools. So it's kind of a shared service. We are the trainers, we have the train the trainers, we go and train. So we have in every school district in DuPage County, people that can deliver on restorative practices, SEL, work with ACEs, work with a variety of different type of programs. So every teacher is prepared, in that particular arena. Next slide. And I'll just go through this one. Oh, that was the trauma one. So next slide after that one. Sorry. We also were designated this year by the state of Illinois to be the lead principal mentor of funding came in from the state through federal dollars. And so we provide mentoring services across the state of Illinois to all of the principals. We work with the other regional offices of education. So it's not our staff doing the work, but we work with them and coordinate in a seamless effort that every principal has a mentor that they work with. Also too, next slide. We've been very fortunate. 5 years ago, we received about $16 million in funding to support leadership and the recruitment of leaders and getting teacher leaders into the pipeline to become principals. And those are exhausted, but we were able to pick up another one this past year, another 8 million, so we can continue some of our work to keep that, to keep the leadership and teacher leaders in the pipeline. Next slide. And this is the one I said I'm very excited about, our micro endorsement. It's just it's individualized micro credentials. We're working with the state of Illinois so that every teacher then, if they engage in these micro credentials, engage successfully in these micro credentials, they can get a designation on their teacher license. So it gives them a little bit more status as well too. Like, we had the master's degree, then that's great. But now we're going to have this other type of recognition on their license as well too. That said, in the 5 areas that we're working in right now are social emotional learning, equity, English language learners, early childhood education, and coaching as well. And the next slide, and probably one of the most important slides. I will say this quite confidently, that I don't think that there's another county in the state of Illinois that does as much work as DuPage County does in the way of school safety. We've been at this since 1999, right after Columbine. I remember bringing the superintendents together and then some of them actually yelling at me and saying, I will never shut my doors. I will keep my doors open. This is a community entity. Well, we've come a long way since then. And we've done a tremendous amount of work, probably more than any other county. A lot of counties model what we do. And a lot has to do with just the fact that, you know what, you all pay attention to this as well too. Bob Berlin has been a great partner, you know, with us on this. The sheriff has been a great partner. OEM, Craig. More recently, we brought our superintendents together in the summer. In June, we brought our superintendents together with their legal. And we created, and they're working on it right now, and we're going to be presenting, and you're all welcome. On August 23rd, we have intergovernmental agreements where we have alignment with our schools with your unification plans. So we're doing that. We're modeling the mutual aid agreements. We're doing that as well too. So lots and lots of work has been done, and we're really proud of this work because we never ever want to take this work for granted in any way, shape, or form. So that's just kind of it in a little bit in a nutshell. I hope you do look more at the at our annual report when it comes out. And I just want to say this: I really look forward to this next, this next school year. I think we've seen our educators, persevere very well during all of everything that was going on. I'm very proud of our children in DuPage County, and it's our job to help support them in any way that we possibly can. And I'm most proud of our staff as well too, that continue to, I'll just say this, to make the office look good every single day. And isn't that what we want from our staff? So I just want to say thank you for all of your support of the regional office. And then we do have a brief budget presentation. The Assistant Regional Superintendent for Finance is here, Dr. Jeremy Dotson, and he's gonna finish this up. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Darlene. Welcome, Jeremy.
Good morning. So this next section of the presentation is going to involve the department head counts, salaries, positions, the department requests, the variance, as well as equity increases. We'll discuss a little bit about what that's going to represent. Next slide, please. So our department head count consists of 13 operational staff, 4 life safety officers, who are part-time that are quarter time each, as well as our first assistant superintendent, who's also a 1 FTE. So if you look to the middle of the slide, that represents our time and effort for how the budget is actually allocated to each of these positions. So as you can see, all of our positions are allocated at 100% with the exception of the first assistant superintendent as well as the superintendent. Who actually is the elected official. So that budget actually right now is $732,000. Next slide, please. So what are we asking for? So we are asking for $993,879. And that represents a $98,000, roughly a $99,000, rounded to the nearest thousand of a budget variance. And that represents also 76%. So really 76% of our budget is allocated to salaries. Okay. And then 93%, which we'll get into later, 93% of this budget is allocated to salaries as well as consultant services. Okay, so really we're working with about 7% of our budget toward supplies, capital outlay, and other resources that we use to operate our organization. Next slide, please. Okay, so our budget variances. So what that entails is basically purchase services, IT equipment, repair and maintenance, as well as travel. So our salaries represents basically the increases that we received last year. So we received a partial increase for equity for last year, as well as a position change, as well as a COLA. So really, when we went before the board last time, we asked the board to increase COLA by 3%, but really it was actually approved for 2%. And we allocated another 1% to cover the 3%. So that 1% is not actually in the salary line in terms of what we actually contributed, but that's what we did last year. And then the IT equipment, what we're looking to do for this particular year going forward is to purchase 4 servers. Our current servers are roughly 10 years. Basically they're due for replacement and they're 10 years old. So we're looking to replace 4 servers at approximately $8,000 a piece. And then the repair and maintenance is for any type of repairs of equipment, printers, and so forth. So that is a moderate increase, but nevertheless, it's something that we need to put into this budget. And also considering the supply chain and rising costs. So we actually we increased that budget just slightly over last year. And then the travel, also we budgeted a higher amount for travel just because of the increase to the IRS code. So really the budget, the mileage reimbursement rate increased this past June. So we anticipate that we're going to travel a little bit more due to an increase in staff, increase in staff travel and activities for our interventionists. Next slide, please. So equity increases. So what we're looking to do is we want to remain competitive with the market. Okay, so we realize and recognize that the market is changing. The capital, the human capital is in demand. So we want to stay ahead of that demand, but relative to the budget, of course. So for FY23, we're proposing $142,000 increase to equity to ensure that we maintain continuity with our staff, we maintain the retention of our staff, and also we want to really keep that intellectual as well as the institutional knowledge here in our office, because we know training new staff on the laws, the variations of grants and so forth, it can be very gruesome. So that's what we're asking for, is $142,000 for FY23 for equity increases. Also, within that equity increase, we're also looking to, for the board's approval, of course, to look at how our FTEs are actually comprised. So right now we have 1 FTE that's assigned to our first assistant superintendent, who's actually funded by the budget at 10%. Okay, so what we're looking to do is reallocate that 1 FTE or even 90.9 FTE to a position such as a behavior interventionist, so that we could continue doing that work in the truancy department. And then also continue to fund our first assistant superintendent at the same level that they're funded at now. So really the equivalency, they should be more or less similar to the elected official, because really they're doing the same work, and with the exception of taking away 1 FTE and allocating it to an area in which we certainly need that in terms of SEL and social emotional learning and so forth in the truancy department. So at some point, August 26th, we're going to present that that ask to the board for consideration and approval. Next slide. So here are our budget facts. So our budget facts is that we're asking for $998,000 roughly That includes increase to IT equipment, travel, repair and maintenance, as well as salaries. That represents 93%. So 93% of our budget is salaries as well as consultant services. 4% is procurement. And then we're also asking for 142,000. Well, we're asking the board to consider 142,000 for equity increases so that we can continue to maintain the continuity of our office and maintain the support to our county board and also to our county school districts. Next slide, please. Any questions?
Member Ozag and Member Rutledge.
My question is for Superintendent Rossetti. First of all, I want to thank you for your presentation and wish you well going forward, and thank you for your important work. My question for you, though, is regarding the apprentice program. Does the DOE work in conjunction or in tandem with the Technical Center of DuPage? What is your connection or support?
But yeah, Darlene, could you come up to the microphone? Yeah, thank you.
We actually are a non-voting member on their board.
Okay.
And we have met with Mr. Zimmerman multiple times. We believe he should be an integral part of the work that we're doing. It's just been a slower go because they don't have a manufacturing program there. They don't have some of the things that we're looking for right now. I mean, that we're actually looking for apprenticeships at. It's just a different kind of a program. And so we are trying. I'm just gonna leave it there. We are trying.
And I've been to TCD in the past, and I know they do very specific things. So there's not a redundancy here. You're looking at a different workforce type of.
We do think it's important to partner with them.
Okay, so
We do think it's important.
but really you're looking at kind of two different missions.
And we're also looking at the state. We've been in contact with the state and actually asking if they would consider allocating statewide certain dollar amount per student from middle school to high school so that we have some funding to do this. That's why I think if we can get our pilot in a place where, scale it up and bring it to, and they've been listening to us anyway. And it's kind of cool that it's coming from DuPage and they're listening to us. So that's another route that we're taking as well too, because it's not just DuPage's,
Right.
It's the state and we need to get support.
It's important for economic development throughout the state, but I
Yes.
just wanted to, it
Yeah.
sounds, you're looking for, I'm getting what I wanted to hear,
Okay.
that it's not a redundancy.
Yeah, no,
So,
not at all.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Member Rutledge.
Thanks, Chair Chaplin. This may be a Nick question, actually, in regard to your allocation for raises for some of your people. Was the Department of Education not included in the pay study that we did where we gave those 5% raises?
The answer is no. The elected officials, so that primarily concentrated on the departments that report to county board. Elected officials, we're always willing to work with them when they're ready to do it, but no, they were not included.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. Member Krajewski.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, that's one of the things that we directed all the elected officials to get to us by, and I think Dr. Rossetti had on the board by August 26th is the deadline for submittal. And I did ask Nick, was it last week, to send a reminder out to all elected officials to have their pay studies done for equity and to get them into finance by August 26th. Hence, I think that's why that was up there. And I know they're working on it, but we want a comparison with comparable counties and the job descriptions, et cetera. And so look forward to that. My question just for Jeff is why is the assistant superintendent, which is only funded by 10% because the state pays 90% of the salary, why do we consider that a full-time FTE? I know they suggest they just basically want to hire one person as a. Okay, yeah, it's probably.
We're gonna have to research that one.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't seem to make any sense, but I mean, in reality, they just want to hire one more position and add a behavioral specialist for the truancy, I think they said. It'll keep your head count the same if you do that, but
I just was curious why we count it as a full time.
I don't know. I don't know either. And I know it was before his time. I just remember, you know, how we have to approve every year the head count. And I remember seeing that one year and it's just like, oh, okay. And, you know, okay, I remember I asked, I don't remember what the reason was. It was not to lose a head count, but I do want to share this. What we want to do is this person that is being paid right now out of the federal dollars, the CARES dollars, so we don't lose that person. If we could move that person here, they know that they only have a limited time, but so we want to be able to move it to this position then, and we would have that person.
Thank you. So the 142,000 potentially in pay equity raise increases includes one new person, and so it's a lot smaller for the equity adjustments, but it's a combination of both. So thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Darlene, I just want to congratulate you on your last budget presentation.
Thank you.
I mean, and I want to thank you. Over the years, your passion in caring for the students of DuPage County is obvious. And the way that we would never know that things had changed, like COVID or school violence or truancy or things that have happened, and then how quickly you and your office are able to respond to these to make sure that the school kids and the children in DuPage County are always protected at the best. And it just, your leadership is going to be sadly missed. Because obviously, even you see on your presentation, you could probably talk for another hour about everything that the office does. And again, thank you for everything. And that's why our office is probably the best in the state of Illinois.
Thank you. And I do want to say this, that you have been very good. I've been the regional superintendent for 20 years. You have been very good to the office. I mean, there are times where there have been things you probably don't even know. I remember under Schillerstrom, he put in a line item, we called it Bridges of Understanding, and it's under my consultant. I proposed something to him about how do we start to work together with the various, as we saw the county demographics changing. And so we said, how do we kind of help to bridge that gap between, you know what, DuPage County and new families moving in and all that. And we continue to keep that and work under equity with that consultant line item that we have in the budget. And we've done some tremendous work. We actually, I'd love to give you even a copy of it. We actually have a book published that's called Voices. And one of the things that we did was that we talked to our juniors and seniors, our students, our Latino and our Black students, junior and seniors, and we asked them, why do you think your Caucasian and Asian peers do better than you? And we interviewed them, we hosted focus groups, we did that, and we put it into a study. And we made recommendations, and we've been working on those recommendations, ever since. We're doing something similar right now with truancy. We're doing a deep dive into truancy, like what are the underlying causes, why our students are truant here in DuPage County. And we're interviewing the students, we're interviewing the parents, we're talking, like what is it? Where are these students coming from? Is it all over? It's really very interesting, and I have some districts that have zero truancy, like really. You have zero truancy. And, I have others that, they're off the charts, with truancy. So we really want to get a good handle on that, especially this year. And I think we're going to do some publishing of that as well. And why is that important? Because I still get the royalties from Amazon on the book Voices. Okay. So we're into that, however we can make money, we're trying to do it that way.
Great,
so, and thank you. Thank all of you.
Member Wachowski, and then we have to wrap it up because we have to.
I just want to say thank you. I first met you when I was the Addison School District 4 board, and you always thought outside the box. It was amazing how our school superintendents in DuPage rely on you and count on you, and you have sacrificed so much, but you've taken it to a level that nobody else has taken it to, and you've always were progressive, and it is a great working relationship that you had with the various school superintendents, and it was so obvious how much they love and respect you, and you will be missed. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And we all share their sentiment. So thank you very much, Darlene. Thank you. With that, we move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Okay, seeing none. I made my chairwoman remarks at the beginning of the meeting, so we'll move on past that. Can I have a motion on the finance meeting minutes from July 12th, 2022? I have a motion by member Rutledge, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. we move on to item 7, budget transfers. Can I have a motion on FIR 03-1622 budget transfers from various companies and accounting units from 8/9/2022? I have a motion by member Garcia, a second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Procurement, member Kajewski.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move on, change order decrease and closeout PO 5145-0001.
The motion by member Kajewski, a second by member Zay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Kajewski.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move on another change order decrease and close of PO 5236-0001.
The motion by member Kajewski, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Kajewski.
I move on 2022-66 approval of an agreement with William Roberts to provide legal services as special assistant state's attorney for the period December 1st, 2021 through, which I guess we already started a long time ago, through November 30th, 2022, or not to exceed 25,000.
I have a motion by member Kajewski. Do I have a second? A second by member Pachowski. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. And member Kajewski.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move on FIP 0232-22, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Foam Products Corporation to provide foam for boxes for ballot printers for the DuPage County Election Division for not to exceed $116,090.
Motion by member Kajewski, second by member Garcia. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm trying to figure out how this got on the agenda. And I'm looking at the decision memo. And it said, let's see. Why is this procurement necessary? Finance has prepared this decision memo because the clerk's office engaged in their own procurement process, is not prepared the documents to obtain approval for payment of this capital expense. What does that mean? I mean, why is the clerk's office didn't bring this forward? Why is it coming forward then? Why is finance doing it?
Because we need to get the invoice paid. We have to pay our vendor. I mean,
Well, not our vendor, the clerk.
well, the clerk's vendor, the county has to pay this vendor.
Why did this thing come to us sooner?
Can
Why
we,
didn't it go through the procurement process? Why is this office continually not going with the flow like every other department and countywide does? I don't understand it.
Valerie's coming up to explain. Thank you. Or who's coming up? Valerie or Jeff or Adam, the
They're all
clerk?
drawing Strasburg.
Well, how about
Okay, Adam's coming up.
staff?
So the clerk has a statutory right to procure goods and services to perform the duties of the office. The clerk's office procured these materials. The invoice has been approved for payment by the clerk. And as far as the county finance department's procedures, I'd have to defer to them to speak to that.
Well, did the auditor catch this?
Um,
Did the auditor or the state's
Yeah.
attorney or our finance? I mean,
Audit,
that just sounds like, hey, we can buy it, and we're gonna buy it, and we're not gonna follow the procedure. I
we're
mean,
having
that's what it
Bill
sounds
White's
like.
coming up.
Oh, hi, Bill.
Thank you. From the perspective of the auditor's office, this invoice was submitted to us. County policy requires a purchase order approved by this board. Our understanding is the position of the county clerk is that this is an internal purchase that doesn't require a purchase order. Our office disapproved it. And then when finance submitted their purchase order, we did recommend it for payment contingent on the vote of this board this morning. So if the board votes this morning, the invoice is paid. Current county policy requires a purchase order. The state's attorney apparently has requested guidance from the Office of the Attorney General to find out whether or not this board has to vote yes in order to have this paid. But in the meantime, this is an old invoice, and we have suggested that this invoice be paid.
But what's gonna stop any other now department to just go out and procure what they want and not follow the procedures?
I
I
think
mean,
that's
I
the
don't
question.
understand. I mean, like you said, you denied it. Thank you for catching it, obviously. But what's going on here? I mean, this just could open Pandora's box. I understand the vendors there, but we do have a process that every department, every countywide elected official comes to, and it just seems like they're just not following it. And then, okay, I understand we have to pay people. I mean, it is a late invoice, but what happens next time? And then the time after that? I mean, this is how are foam boxes not competitive to bidding? I mean, I don't understand that, you know, I mean.
The larger questions I need to defer to the state's attorney, because I know we had a meeting where they have requested guidance from the Attorney General. So our position, my position is that this invoice should be paid if this board votes yes to pass the purchase order. Whether the policy needs to be changed is something to be decided with guidance from the Office of the State's Attorney.
So this wouldn't, my question, how it got here, if finance didn't bring this forward because they wanted to pay it, it should still never have come because it didn't follow our procedures. Finance brought it forward to be paid.
I'm prepared to recommend this for payment. We have recommended this for payment based on the purchase order submitted by finance, subject to the approval of this board. Whether the policy is to be changed in the future is not within the scope of my authority.
Because finance brought it.
Well, no, changing the policy is not within the scope of my authority. Current policy is this requires a purchase order approved by this board. If that policy changes, we will recommend for payment based upon the changed policy. Establishing policy is not within the role of the county auditor.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Member Zay, Member Krajewski, then Member Garcia.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this came up Friday. Chairwoman and myself were on a call with Nick trying to get this vendor paid. We were told that this invoice was sent on April 27 with a net 30, meaning it was due May 27. It's submitted till the end of for this paid. The state's attorney spent a bunch of time on it too, and we were told, at least on Friday, they recommended payment. So I have a question, I guess. Is there a late fee in this thing? I mean, it was supposed to be paid at the net 30. We were told, is there a late fee if it's not?
That's actually a discussion that Connor and I were having yesterday on the late fee. Our recommendation at this point right now is if the board does approve it today in county board, we pay it. And then we will discuss that issue with the state's attorney and the vendor. Right now, the vendor is only looking to get paid, but we have to figure out what our statutory duties are.
Does that mean there is a late fee in the
Well,
contract?
there's absolutely, I mean, by statutory, I mean, by the state guidelines, there is a late fee theoretically for late payment because we have exceeded Prompt Payment Act.
I mean, they didn't even bring it to you guys till like June, right? Is that when the auditor? had the night?
When was it first entered into Jeff, first entered in the system? June 24th.
I mean, that's a month after it was due and we start accruing late fees. Do we know, are we getting charged late fees for everything over there in the clerk's office? Are they paying
I
things
don't
on
think
time?
there's any other, I mean, late fees are, we don't have those.
I mean, that's a big expense, $116,000, and they didn't even go to pay it till 30 days after it was due.
Oh, if I can interrupt for 1 second, we do have a state's attorney on that is ready to answer. So thank you, Nick. I don't know who's on.
Okay, there's a late fee in there.
Oh, Lisa? Lisa?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. I just wanted to respond to why this is coming through the board. Finance has advised, and we concur with their recommendation, that this is a capitalized expense and it needs to be processed through the county board. And that's why we're bringing it through finance. Regardless of how the clerk categorizes this expense, it's a capital expenditure. It's related to the HART contract, and that's why we're bringing it. And that's why finance it's on the agenda this morning.
Yeah, we did, as Brian mentioned, we did have a discussion on Friday. Was my opinion, I think, and everybody concurred that we have to get this invoice paid as soon as possible. The vendor needs to get paid. He provided equipment and a service to us, and we want to get our vendors paid. So it was important that we brought it forward. We figured out a way to do it that we can bring it forward. So
What is the state's attorney asking the attorney general?
I think Bill or Lisa.
Lisa talk about
Yes.
it.
Actually, that issue is kind of separate apart from this expenditure. The clerk believes there's a certain category of expenses that the clerk believes that there should really be no county involvement in. And we have written the attorney general to clarify some old opinions, and the statute to kind of make sure that we're all in sync on what they have control over versus what what needs to come through the county. But in any event, this particular purchase has to come through the county because it's a capitalized expense.
And part of the inquiry we made is what constitutes a capital expenditure and a capital expense, because unhelpfully, capital, the way the statute's drafted, is not particularly clear exactly what they're talking about.
So when can we expect a response from them?
I have not yet received any response from the Attorney General.
Probably November 9th.
Okay, I have Member Garcia. Oh, Member Krajewski still, okay.
Yeah, I was asking the question, but okay, so now can we, at least somebody give us in the future, just tell us how much late fees could potentially be incurred because the clerk's office decided not to pay this large invoice time.
You can, okay, Nick's coming up.
If it came through us or not. So just let us know. I mean, and maybe ask the clerk why they didn't feel they should pay this by May 27th.
The late fees, I know Connor, you and I talked, it's the percentage per month is.
My recollection is that it's basically 1% per month of the total contract per month over the period of time in excess of 60 days, I believe, because even though it's a net 30 agreement, state statute controls, there's 30 days to approve, 30 days to pay. So it's really more like a net 60. So it's for each month or portion thereof. But I don't have the math handy though.
Well, we got like 2 months, so a couple $1,000.
Couple $1,000. It's 1% per month, couple $1,000, correct?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Member Garcia?
Thank you. Quick, I know some people who are listening to this may not understand exactly what we're talking about, but these are phone boxes that were needed to provide to carry the new election equipment that we spent a lot of money on from place to place, and the election judges had to be able to carry them. And the boxes that came from Hart were not of good quality. So they actually gave us a refund on the money for those boxes. And then we spent some of the money or the clerks decided to spend more money for boxes that would actually protect the really expensive new equipment. So this vendor absolutely needs to be paid. I do believe the clerk thought that they could pay them there, but now it has to come to the board. So this is well overdue coming to the board. So I think it is a no, it's an absolute yes from me on this.
Thank you, Member Garcia. Member Zay, and then Member Pachowski, and then we're going to wrap it up.
I mean, thank you, Member Garcia. I think that's all we're asking for is for an explanation. Just go out and buy something and just say, it's my right to buy it. We have a process here that comes through the board. I don't think anybody's going to deny that we want to protect our equipment. We just spent a lot of money on. It's about process. It's about following the process that everybody else does in every department, every countywide. And for some reason, it doesn't seem like they want to do that. You know, we didn't know. You just told us that the stuff we bought from Hart, did we receive a refund? How much was it? You know, that's good to know. But again, how is it single source? Did Hart recommend these people? I mean, that's great to know. But again, maybe this could have been done on a change order with Hart if they had to buy it from Hart or whatever. But again, we just want information to make the best decision, and we're not getting that. And when they just send it to us and their line is, well, we have the right to buy stuff and that's it. I mean, that really doesn't, I think, sit well with some of the board members.
Thank you, Member Zay, Member Pachowski, then Member Desart, then Member Renahan, and then we've got to wrap this up because we have executive.
Well, I just want to
session.
make sure we have a system in place so this doesn't happen again. So if the answer is yes, because of the process that we just went through, we have now implemented another check and balance that this doesn't happen to, that's fine. And did the vendor complain at all about his non-payment? Because maybe that's something we need to address as well. Sometimes vendors are a little bit more patient or not patient, but I'd be curious to know if this vendor was reaching out to us complaining that he was supposed to be paid within a 30-day period and wasn't. And my hope is in the future, we don't have another one of these hiccups, because I think it's an embarrassment to us and we should pay our bills on time, but we have to know what bills we are to pay timely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Member Pachowski. Member Desart.
Thank you. I just wanted to offer that when we get our board packets on Fridays, oftentimes I'll go, I always go through them on the weekends. And then oftentimes on Mondays, if I have specific questions for stormwater or the clerk, or I'll pick up the phone on Monday morning or shoot an email out and ask some of these questions. So the questions are, why is this happening? What is this item that was purchased? Why are we getting the invoice now or being asked about on this now. I would just have picked up the phone and called the clerk if you have questions, which I often do of department heads. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I just want to note for the record, I mean, this really is a unique situation. This is, it goes through as a professional service, but even our state's attorney is having to ask the Attorney General, are these phone boxes, do they meet a capital expenditure? So, you know, maybe it's not as easy as it might appear. I know we've got some watchdogs in our clerk that we seem to hear from time after time, but I do think it makes sense as a practical question.
Thank you, Member Renahan. Okay.
May I just address Member Renahan's question?
Yes.
The issue that we have going to the Attorney General, while it does discuss capital expenditures, there wasn't any issue with regard to this expense that it is a capital expenditure on behalf of finance or our office. So that there wasn't a question with regard to this particular purchase.
Thank you, Lisa. Member Krajewski.
Yeah, again, what our auditor said about the Attorney General, that it's not what the state's attorney is saying. That's a different issue. This issue is, this is a capital expense, and both the state's attorney and the finance department says it needs rules to come through us. The clerk thinks it's something different. But what the state's attorney is looking at is something different, what they're asking the Attorney General for. And not to mention, this thing was already late before they even brought it forward to get paid in some fashions.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski. We move on to environmental. Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair. This morning, I am asking for ENR 0272-22, a resolution to the acceptance of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency Solid Waste Management Grant FY22 Intergovernmental Agreement number SWM 22320 in the amount of $5,000.
Motion by Member Rutledge, second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Member Rutledge. We move on to Health and Human Services. Member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on change order HHSP 6A-22 amendment to resolution HHSP 6-22 issued to Outreach Community Services to provide job skill training to low-income youths, increasing the encumbrance by $30,000.
Motion by Member Renahan, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move approval of HHS CO 19-22 amendment to county subgrantee contract 5575-1 serve issued to Teen Parent Connection through the FY22 CSBG for purchase of diapers, formula, car seat, staffing time to assist low-income county residents in the amount of $25,139.
Motion by Member Renahan, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move approval of HHSP 223-22, recommendation for approval of contract to DuPage Federation on Human Services Reform. This is for translation services primarily for the Senior Services Unit, August 13, 2022 through August 12, 2023, not to exceed $45,000.
Motion by Member Renahan, second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of HHSP 224-22, recommendation for approval of contract to Jones Healthcare LLC for rental of fluid immersion and simulation mattress for beds for the care center, August 9th, 2022 through August 8th, 2023, not to exceed $40,000.
Motion by Member Renahan, second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of HHSP 225-22, recommendation for approval of contract to Tab Textiles Company for linens for the care center, August 10th, 2022 through August 9th, 2023, not to exceed $60,000.
Motion by Member Renahan, second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
We're at JPS.
Yes.
Okay. I move approval of JPSP 216-22, recommendation for approval of contract to Dr. Elizabeth Donegan to provide complete comprehensive evaluation of offenders referred by the court, August 19th, 2022 through August 18th, 2023, not to exceed $50,000. This is for probation and court services.
Motion by Member Renahan, second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of JPSP 219-22, recommendation to enter an agreement between the 18th Judicial Circuit Court and Diana Hightower for our Family Violence Coordinating Council Coordinator, August 10th, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, not to exceed $33,600.
Motion by member Renahan, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you so much, member Renahan. We move on to Public Works, member Ozag.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of FMP 021722, agreement between the County of DuPage and the Village of Glendale Heights on behalf of the 18th Judicial Court Circuit for the lease of property for use as courtroom facilities for facilities management for 36-month period, December 1st, 2022 through November 30th, 2025, for a contract total amount not to exceed $245,708.
Motion by member Ozag, second by member Pachowski. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozag.
Thank you. I move for approval of PWP 022622, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Lakeside Equipment Corporation for parts for rehabilitation of screw pump number 2 and number 3 at the Woodridge Green Valley Wastewater Treatment Facility for Public Works for a total contract amount not to exceed $60,500. Competitive bids not suitable for competitive bids.
Motion by member Ozag, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozag.
Thank you. Finally, I move for approval of PWP 022722, agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois and Robinson Engineering for on-call professional engineering services, water tower tank and system engineering services for the Public Works Department for a total cost not to exceed $90,000 for professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process.
Motion by member Ozag, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Ozag.
Thank
We
you.
move on to Stormwater, member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 22022. Approval of contract issue to Scares for water quality youth education for the period of August 10th through August 31st, 2023, the amount of $77,000.
Motion by member Zay, second by member DeCiani. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 22122. Contract issue to Trotter and Associates for on-call professional engineering services in the amount of $90,000.
Motion by member Zay, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 22222. Approval of a contract issued to Altoffer Industries to provide and deliver one Caterpillar mini hydraulic excavator, the amount of $33,200.
Motion by member Zay, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Zay. We move on to technology. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on change order TEP 0416A-21, amendment to resolution TEP 041621 issued to Esri for professional services for GIS data migration support and training. This is an increase of $31,050 for a total of $156,450.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on TEP 0231-22, a recommendation for a contract purchase order to Patrick Engineering for professional services for our GIS system. This contract covers August 10th, 2022 through November 30th, 2023 for a total of $108,000.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Chavez. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Selman. We move on to transportation. Member Pachowski. Oh, your mic, please.
Sorry. Good morning, Madam Chair. I'd move on amendment to DTP 0121C-20, amendment to a resolution issued to Knight EA Inc. for professional design engineering services for improvements to the bridge carrying Warrenville Road over the east branch of the DuPage River to increase the funding $70,003, resulting in amended contract amount of $465,821.10, an increase of 7.6%, and up to 80%, $56,002 to be federally reimbursed.
Motion by member Pachowski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on DTP 0218-22, recommendation of approval contract to MDS Solutions to furnish and deliver rolled goods as needed for Department of Transportation for a contract not to exceed $55,000 per lowest responsible bid.
Motion by member Petrowski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member
Thank you.
Petrowski.
Finding, Madam Chair, move on DTR 0306-22, recommendation approval of a resolution to authorize the Division of Transportation to process FY 2023 and FY 2024 recommendation vehicle placement purchase order upon confirmation of award by a contract to Suburban Purchasing Agreement for amount not to exceed $1,989,000 for fiscal year 23 and $1,502,500 for fiscal year 2024.
Motion by member Petrowski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member
Thank
Petrowski.
you,
We
Madam
move on to finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to combine items A, B, and C, which are all acceptance and appropriation resolutions.
I have a motion by member Krajewski and a second by member Stallman to combine items A, B, and C under finance resolutions. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
I move to approve FIR 0297-22, which is a resolution for additional funding and extension of time for ILDCFS, the Children's Advocacy Center Grant, $134,856. Resolution FIR 0298-22, which is an acceptance appropriation of the Victims of Crime Act, which is $80,504 grant. And the last one is FIR 0301-22, resolution acceptance appropriation of the Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program, HHS grant, for $803,400.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Rutledge. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0302-22, resolution, which is a revision to the personnel budget for Veterans Assistance Commission.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Schwarzy. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member
Thank
Krajewski.
you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0303-22, which is a resolution for authorization to transfer funds to the Veterans Assistance Commission for fiscal year 2022, $9,998.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0305-22, resolution for acceptance appropriation of the Adult Redeployment Illinois Program grant for $354,223.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Hang on a second. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0307-22, resolution acceptance appropriation of the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program grant for $3,006,892.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Renahan. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0308-22, resolution acceptance appropriation of the Section 5310 Regional Transportation Authority grant, $591,000.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Ozog. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
I move on FIR 0310-22, resolution acceptance appropriation of the HUD 2021 grant for $188,556.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Last, Madam Chair, I move on FIR 0315-22, resolution allowing the automatic renewal of the homestead tax exemption for persons with disabilities.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We move on to informational. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file informational items: A, County Board; B, payment of claims; C, wire transfers; D, appointments; and E, grant proposal notifications.
We have a motion by member Krajewski to receive and place on file items A, B, C, and C, D, and E. Do I have a second? A second by member Chowski. Any discussion? All those in, member Rutledge.
Just a quick kudos to membership, as we'll be so sorry to see you go, but we wish you all the best in that new opportunity for you.
Okay, any, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any old business? Any new business? We do have an executive session today, so pursuant to Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2 collective negotiating matters. We will ask that the audience please step out for a few minutes while we go into executive session. Can I have a motion to go into executive session? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Yes. We're convening out of executive session based on a visual roll call. We do have a quorum. Can I have a motion on FIR 031722 resolution authorization of contract with Police Benevolent Labor Committee Local 501 for the employees of DuPage County Sheriff for the term 12/1/2020 to 11/30/2024. I have a motion by Member Pachowski, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Rutledge. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.